Much like the Wind Waker, I feel the Minish Cap was lacking slightly in its number of dungeons. What annoys me more about this case than the Wind Waker is the fact that they have a mini dungeon that could easily have been a proper regular dungeon. And that's the Royal Crypt, the place where you go to meet the ancient king of Hyrule, which eventually leads to the sky. In the current Minish Cap, it's just a little dungeon that you go through, you get some keys, it doesn't have a boss and you don't get any weapon, and it's just not really that big and important part of the game. So I would change that by just making it a full dungeon. I'm not sure who the boss is. My idea for the dungeon is to give the Cane of Samaria to be the weapon. That's the item that creates blocks. It's a classic Zelda item. I think Smog from Oracle of Ages would work well as a boss to key on that weapon. But since it's a tomb-based dungeon, there's a number of skeleton-type style enemies you could use for the boss of it. And like in other games, when you have an extra boss thrown in, that means an extra heart container, which means you have to remove 4 pieces of heart. Fortunately, in the Wind Waker, that's pretty easy to do because there are 4 dojos you find around the world that just have pieces of heart sitting there, and I feel that's very weak. You're already getting a reward for going to the dojo by getting a hidden skill, so another piece of heart there, it just felt strange to me. I didn't know why a piece of heart was just lying there. The Minish Cap is also strange in the fact that it gives you a full heart container for one of the side quests, and that's when you're talking to Liberi in the library. He just straight up gives you a heart container. So I'd make that a piece of heart, and I'd put 3 extra pieces of heart around the world. One of which would be in Simon Simulations, which is a game in the Minish Cap where you go to sleep and you fight a lot of enemies. I think you can already get a heart container there during the main game, but I would make it so you can get a second, and I'd just expand this mini game overall. So you can fight more enemies and fight the actual bosses in the game. So it'd be similar to the Take 'em All On game and the other various mini games like that that we come to know in the series. I've already mentioned that the Cane of Samaria will be the weapon to obtain in the Royal Crypt. So I'm obviously adding new weapons in, but I wouldn't just add 1 new weapon, I would add 3. Aside from the Cane of Samaria, I'd add in Deku Nuts, because I think Deku Nuts are pretty cool, because I think it would just suit the Minish Cap. Deku Scrubs are around in the Minish Cap, and being able to stun enemies is a pretty useful thing. And the last weapon I'd add is the Nat Hat from Four Swords. This lets you shrink in size whenever you want, and it's probably what inspired the Minish Cap. So having the ability to shrink whenever you want in the Minish Cap would be a pretty useful feature. However, since, a lot of puzzles are based around shrinking at certain portals, it would actually break the game if you could just get it whenever you want. So it would be a kind of reward you can only get after you've beaten the game and gotten all 136 figurines. I mean, there's probably not that much to use it on. It'd be cool to have nonetheless. I'd make Vati's second form, Vati Transfigured, a bit more difficult. As it currently is, you have to stand on a series of tiles and make clones of Link to attack Vati on his weak spot, but the weak spot's always on the same side of him. I'd have it so towards the end of the battle the weak spot is spread out all around him, so the actual tiles you'd have to step on wouldn't always be right beside each other. In the Minish Cap, there's a side quest where the oracles from Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons appear, and you can get them houses to live in Hyrule Castle Town. Except you can only ever get 2 of them to live there, and the third one just doesn't ever move in, even though there's a spot in the game to build a 3rd house, and you have Gorman standing out there saying, I should build a house here. And yep, this just never happens in the game there. So I don't know why that's the case. I imagine it's just something they didn't get finished in time, but I would just make it so you can finish that in time. It wouldn't be broken having all 3 oracles, especially if you can only have 100 charms at once. And it always just felt annoying to me that you can actually complete the game really and have everything you want. You have to choose between 2 of the 3 oracles. And that's all I have to say about the Minish Cap. Join in next time and I'll talk about Twilight Princess.